Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're keeping this short, sharp, and deeply unsettling. On January 6, 2026, undercover detectives were hiding in the pitch-black shadows of Mount Moriah Cemetery, a historic, massive 200-acre burial ground straddling the border of southwest Philadelphia. For months, family vaults and stone mausoleums had been quietly broken into, but nothing made sense. No dirt was disturbed, and no graves were dug up. The predator was only targeting above-ground tombs, sliding heavy marble slabs aside with a crowbar in total silence. Suddenly, a figure emerged from a broken crypt. He was carrying a crowbar and a heavy, bulging burlap sack. When police closed in and ambushed him, they expected to find stolen jewelry or historic artifacts. Instead, they opened the burlap bag and found something that left seasoned homicide cops completely frozen. Inside were 3 human skulls, assorted bones, and the mummified remains of 2 small children. The man holding the bag was 34-year-old Jonathan Christian Gerlach. And as the cuffs clicked around his wrist, investigators had no idea that this cemetery bust was just the tip of the massive, multi-state horror story. They were about to uncover an underground network that treats the dead as a commodity. The next morning, Lancaster County Police executed a search warrant on Gerlach's home on Washington Street in Ephrata, Pennsylvania. The prosecutors later summarized what happened next in a single sentence. Detectives walked into a horror movie come to life. The moment officers crossed the threshold, they were hit with a suffocating, distinct odor, ancient dust, heavy chemicals, and organic decay. When they flipped on their flashlights, they realized they weren't inside a home anymore. It was an unholy, unregulated private catacomb. Human remains were scattered across every single room. Some skulls were neatly lined up on shelves like trophies. Fully intact skeletal structures were laid out across tables. In the basement, investigators shone their lights upward and found human remains literally hanging from the ceiling rafters. Forensic teams and medical examiners were called to the scene in a panic, completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of bones. When the final inventory was counted between his house and a nearby storage locker, the number was staggering. Jonathan Gerlach was harboring the remains of more than 100 individual human beings. The collection spanned centuries. Some of the bones belonged to soldiers from the 1800s. Others were devastatingly recent, including one body that still had a modern peacemaker attached to the chest. But why? Why would a seemingly normal guy turn his quiet suburban home into an underground tomb? The answer lay inside Gerlach's digital footprint. When cyber investigators pulled his phone and computer records, they cracked open a window into a highly secretive, deeply disturbing online subculture called the Oddities and Curiosities Black Market. There's a thriving underground community of collectors on mainstream social media platforms who are completely obsessed with owning real human bones. They don't want replicas. They buy, sell, and trade real skulls, hands, and skeletons to display as macabre artwork. And Gerlach had realized there was an insane amount of money to be made if you could bypass the legal supply lines. He wasn't just hoarding these bodies. He was using historic Pennsylvania graveyards as a free fulfillment center for his online store. Detectives found his profile on a Facebook group explicitly named Human Bones and Skull Selling. His private messages revealed a sickening assembly line of commerce. He would raid a family mausoleum at night, photograph the stolen skulls on his kitchen counter the next morning, haggle over prices via chat, and then wrap human remains in ordinary cardboard boxes, shipping them through the standard US mail right into unsuspected neighborhoods across the country. In one horrific digital exchange found by police, a buyer in an online group openly thanked Gerlach for shipping them what was described as a human skin bag. On his mobile payment apps, his public profile picture was a casual selfie of him smiling while holding a human skull. He was treating the dead as pure stock, commodifying human tragedy for human clout and quick cash. When the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania hit Gerlach with the official indictment, the sheer length of the paperwork stunned the legal community. He was slapped with a staggering 574 criminal charges. The list sounded like something out of the Dark Ages. 100 counts of abuse of a corpse, 100 counts of theft, 26 counts of burglary, and dozen counts of intentional desecration of a public monument. His bail was set at a massive $1 million. Confronted with an absolute mountain of forensic evidence, dirt-stained tools, and his own digital receipts, Gerlach eventually admitted to police that he had been systematically looting the historic vaults and selling the remains online. By June 2026, he waived his formal arraignment, heading straight toward a definitive locked-in conviction. But while the legal system processed Gerlach, a completely different nightmare began for the local community. Mount Moriah Cemetery is the final resting place for over 150,000 souls, including veterans from the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. Families who have loved ones buried in those historic vaults were left in an agonizing state of limbo. Medical examiners and forensics anthropologists are still faced with the monumental, devastating puzzle of using DNA testing to figure out exactly which stolen bones belonged to which desecrated tombs, trying to piece back together a history that Gerlach tore apart for profit. The historic gates of Mount Moriah have finally quieted down, with volunteers and security teams rushing to install surveillance cameras and fencing to ensure the dead are never disturbed again. But Jonathan Gerlach's case remains an elite tier of bizarre. It proves that the most unthinkable, stomach-churning crimes don't always happen in far-off places. Sometimes a thriving black market enterprise of the macabre is operating right out of a normal basement, just a few doors down your street. What do you think drives someone to cross a line this extreme? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button, subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive, and as always, stay safe out there and watch the shadows.